with us Eva Natanya, I would say a living master of the stuff we're about to listen to, because since 2012 she has studied in the Jason Kappa lineage.
Sorry, 2002.
2002? What did I say?
12.
Oh, 2002. 2016. 2002. She has studied in the Kaluppa lineage with Geshe Michael Roach, has completed the highest study, both Sutra and Tantra. Very rare in the West. She's just completed her PhD at the University of Virginia. Very rare indeed. Is the editor of a book that's about to come out with Alan Wallace in February called
Open Mind. It actually just showed up on Amazon yesterday. Open Mind, View and Meditation in the Lineage of Lara Lingba. So it's translated by Alan Wallace, and I have the privilege of editing.
She can speak and translate Tibetan language, the origin of the lineage we study here. And she's about to go into an indefinite year of shamatha retreat to get deeper realizations on the ideas we're studying here. It's extremely rare to get a Western person to go through that experience and then still be able to connect with Western minds and explain it. So please, I urge you, open your hearts, open your minds, and help me welcome Eva Natanya.
All the way from California.
Yeah.
The wild, what do you call it? Just making sure I have all items. So welcome everyone. I know it's hot. Thank you for persevering. I think we'll get all our pranas organized soon enough, and then it'll be comfortable. But I think it's good if we start with a meditation. So please be as comfortable as you can. Please turn off all cell phones, including vibrations. We want to be open to higher and subtler vibrations here than the ones currently inundating our minds and spaces. So as you find your seat, begin to sense the center of groundedness. Where is your weight in contact with your cushion? But from the very start, try to experience that as a sensation, as an interaction of energy. Can you feel the downward moving energies of your body coming in contact with the firmness of the earth? And then from that, begin to feel the upward moving energies. That enable you to sit upright at all. What is it that keeps you from collapsing into a lump of flesh on the ground. And feel those upward energies rising all the way through your skull. How do they emit into the space around you? And once you've found an equilibrium this way, begin to shift your attention to the movement of air passing into and out of your body. At first, you may be aware of other forms of air blowing at you. But then isolate within that the air that is turning into your own breath. And watch how that fills every cavity of your body. Can you feel that air filling your belly? And at some level, passing into your legs, your toes, spreading through your arms and fingers. Try to relax your attention so that you can take in the entire range of sensations associated with the breath as they arise throughout your body, without trying to control the breath at all. And you can exhale deeply now, letting the breath go all the way to its end. Releasing any thoughts or distractions that arise. The more you can release at the end of each breath, the more you pay attention to the transition as the air begins to return like a pure gift, not drawn, not forced, just received. And then with your eyes slightly open or closed, however it feels more comfortable to you, rest your awareness. Clear, quiet, fully present. Totally relaxed. then very gently begin to feel the space of your energetic heart just in front of the spine. In the very center of your body, but all the way to the back. Sometimes it's not easy to bring our focus there, but the more you can relax into the breath, still aware of the rising and falling of your chest, the more easily you can almost fall back into this space of authenticity. And with your energy grounded there, ask yourself, what is it that you want? Really? Why did you come? If you feel overwhelmed by the question, you start with small steps. Why did you come tonight? And if you don't feel quite satisfied with the temporary answer, try to go deeper to something behind it. This week, this month, this year, what are you seeking in life? Is it big enough yet? Is it meaningful enough yet? What do you seek? And then call to the space in front of you as an effulgence of the longing of your own heart. A holy being who represents for you the highest vision of what you long to become. And this holy being could take the form of a traditional bodhisattva or Buddha. Manjushri, gleaming in blazing jewels, the sword of wisdom held aloft above his head. Or it could be the form of one of your own teachers who has represented immaculate wisdom for you in a very vivid way. be a figure of history whom you know or believe to be divine. The incarnate Lord Jesus. Or the teacher could appear without form at all. Sheer presence. Blazing open your heart. Like a whisper too deep for words. But once you taste that presence, let your heart open in frustration. This is real frustration when you have tasted the one before whom you bowed. And then from deep within this same heart center, find something worthy of offering. Something that represents how you feel toward this being. Is it something you have done? Something you have tried to do? Something you have seen of great beauty? The sound of a symphony or an ocean. The exhilarating thrill of a mountaintop. In offering, you can let your mind expand wide across all these things that inspire beauty, inspire awe in you. And you give them back. To the one who understands their source. And then with your heart this wide open, look deep inside at something that is dark there. Something that feels not quite right in you. Whether a recent memory, a harsh word, a disturbed state of mind today or this week, or whether it's something you've carried with you for a long time. And know that you can lay that before the feet of this divine presence with as much courage and hope as you lay forth your offerings of beauty and joy. Know that the light of this divine wisdom dispels the darkness of your heart. I pray that you may be protected from that particular behavior or reaction in the immediate future. Thus cleaning the seeds of the past. from this same open heart, think of that which you've done, about which you feel the greatest joy. Again, might be something recent or long ago. But what can you honestly feel the most proud of in your life? And try to feel the entire panoply of holy beings rejoicing with you. They see better than you the goodness you've done. And then if there is a being you can glimpse in front of you, you can imagine seeing their eyes. Try to look sincerely into these eyes and ask for the teaching that you seek. What is it you want to learn? And if you have felt some authenticity of this presence, know that with your whole being you ask that divine presence to stay with you. This takes courage. And know that if you really want the divine presence with you, you can't think it's only outside of you. You must carry that very presence within your own heart. So if you can, if you wish, call upon this holy being to come to the crown of your own head. To bring me inconceivable blessings of enlightenment. You can see that being become smaller and more intense. A shining jewel of iridescent light, perfectly formed as the holy being you've been visualizing. Or else the abstraction of pure light that is beyond all form. But feel the energy of that light nonetheless above the crown of your head. Allow the central axis of your own body to grow longer and taller in response to this presence manifest so vividly above you. And call that being to come into your own heart, trusting the infinite love that wants to do so. like a jewel entering your own central channel. See this being made of light descend through the center of your skull, along the back of your throat, just in front of your spine, and come to rest at the level of your heart. You can see a flower and a disc of the sun and moon there. Or if that does not appear, just know that this being is seated in a throne of light, deep within your heart. And like a whisper within yourself, ask for what it is that you see. Show me your face, O Lord. Then let that energy from your heart fill your whole body again, relaxing your breath, expanding into your fingers and toes. Turning your eyes open gradually and resting in that clear awareness. So for those of you familiar with the 7 limbs, I'm sure that felt very familiar. But since I'll see some of you only for a very short time, I guess I wanted to express a kind of flexibility and spontaneity that you can start to discover in your own practice. If you've learned a certain sequence of the 7 limb prayer, or you've learned a certain liturgy that you can recite, this is fantastic. And then I encourage you over time is that as you embody that more and more and you take it into your heart and you become accustomed to the meaning behind each of those words, then at a certain point you can let go of the words and you start to let the spirit of it almost expand beyond the specificity of a liturgy that a particular person wrote. And I think for us as non-Tibetans, is there anyone Tibetan here? So for us as non-Tibetans, when we study in a Tibetan lineage, for example, especially even when translated beautifully into English, we can gain so much power from that. And it's almost like, for me at least, the very foreignness of the context gave new meaning to the spirituality and the religious tradition in which I had grown up. But then at a certain point, we need to start writing our own liturgies in our hearts. And I'm sure many of you have experimented with this before, but I just, I hope this helps inspire you to do that more and more yourself. And yet the interesting thing is, if we don't have rubrics or rituals in the first place, it's very hard to have the concentration to move through a sequence of thoughts like that. Like, I'm just curious, by show of hands if you wish, how many people that felt like a familiar sequence in the sense of what I was building from. Okay, great, great. Yeah, I think I felt that in the room, like there was no resistance, so we just went. But you know what I mean? If we tried to do that meditation on the first day you ever meditated, there wouldn't be space for it. There wouldn't be space in your concentration. There wouldn't be space in your heart, literally, energetically. And there wouldn't be the sense of continuity of being able to, because it takes great skill to stay on one idea for a minute or two and not either get so caught up in it that you, what do you call it? You start ruminating about that idea, or you get caught up in memories about something you did when you were 5. That's not the point. And I think you know that. The point is just to touch it, to taste it, and then go on to the next step. And something that has been tremendously meaningful to me in my own practice, and that's the only reason I'm sharing it now, is that as you become more sensitive to your pranic body through the practice of yoga, pranayama, and so on, really healthy eating, you can start to feel the effect on your prana of each of these thoughts. Like, you can hear that teaching about prana and thoughts being united. But for me, it's not until you actually start having that experience in a meditation, and especially a devotional meditation, it's almost the most vivid way in which that can arise, that you watch yourself have a thought, you push that thought a little beyond your comfort zone, and then you feel the pranic effect on it. And so that's why I did encourage you both to become really aware of your whole energetic system before we started. I mean, we could have spent half an hour in mindfulness breathing easily to be really ready for that. But I think there's actually a power to a group like this, to a community, so we can almost go deeper faster than we could by ourselves. But I just want to explain the sequence of what we were doing. So there was that being present, being grounded, being at peace with the movements of prana in your body as they are, and not trying to control, but by the very non-controlling, they naturally start to organize themselves. As Master Alan Wallace says very frequently, your body has the capacity to heal itself, but we have to let it heal itself. As long as we're interfering, that's not going to happen so well. But then only you can be the judge of, okay, when am I ready to start to drop the awareness into my heart? Because sometimes if you try to do that too soon, you'll get some tension. Sometimes we're too agitated, or we're actually distracted about something. Agitated in the sense of an amorphous kind of just jittery, or we're literally distracted about something. And if we try to pull our thoughts too far into the heart right away, it'll create tension or a lot of emotion. So just being sure, okay, I'm quiet enough to let that energy fall back naturally. And then to start to raise these deep spiritual questions about what we're seeking in life when you're already aware of your heart center. Because, as I say, I wouldn't say this to a totally brand new group, but because I know you're practicing and I know you're practicing yoga as well, you're sensitive to that. And so sometimes the very questions and the answers that come to you will have a lot more power if you already brought your energy into your heart. And at a certain point, the whole conversation with your highest teacher can feel like this little dance of prana inside the heart chakra. And you can't expect that. I mean, sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. But I just want to plant that seed because nothing will make the whole theory of winds and mind or energy and consciousness, where the world comes from. Nothing will make that clearer to you than having that experience of watching thoughts move your winds or your energies. So now we're going to go back into the head in a sense, because there's a lot of content here. I always feel a little overwhelmed looking back at my dissertation and trying to figure out, well, how can I actually express this in words as opposed to giving you all something to read. But one way or the other, we're going to get into a lot of intellectual content in the course of the whole course. Obviously, we spent a lot of time meditating tonight. We'll do more. But try to keep the balance. Like, I'll try to remind you, but I want you to also be able to think of, okay, yes, there will be intellectual work. There will be very heady things. There will be very conceptual things. But it's possible, I challenge you to consider that it's possible, not to lose that energetic grounding, which, of course, comes in your compassion, it comes in your love, it comes in your motivation. So that things that could become merely intellectual, very easily become merely intellectual, won't if you keep going back to, well, why was I interested in it in the first place? Why did I want to know the difference between the Chittamatra school and the Prasangika school? Don't worry, I'll translate later. Why did I want to know that? And how does that have to do with the person I'm trying to nurse through an illness, or the family that I know who can't feed their children, or etc. Like, what's the connection? And if we take nothing away from this, to me, it's about a deeper and deeper understanding of what's the connection between our compassion for the suffering we experience and see around us every day, and these profound, but admittedly esoteric and heady ideas that we glean from the 2,500-year tradition of India and Tibet. So just to give you a little bit of background on the context of the very ideas I'll be dealing with. My own dissertation focuses on the work of Tsongkhapa, the founder of our lineage, the Gelug lineage, the teacher of the first Dalai Lama. And the questions that I was asking were very directly related, actually, to the theme of the entire ACI course series. But I kind of explicitly had the motivation, well, a number of different things. But from a scholarly point of view, I had the motivation to go and find in the works of Tsongkhapa not only the content that I kind of was aware was there, but how to put that together in such a way to support or not support, I was testing a hypothesis, what we think of as the core teaching of ACI. I'll challenge, does anybody feel like they could put in 2 or 3 sentences the core teaching of Asian Classics Institute courses? Byron's smiling at me.
long run, the three principal paths.
Sure, go for it.
I don't know. I was just saying.
Oh. I thought you were gonna.
Like,
I thought you were gonna describe the three principal paths to us.
Oh. Okay. So I don't know. I was just guessing. But ACI teaches over and over again renunciation, which is that life sucks and I'm sick of it sucking for me. Bodhicitta, sense of wanting to get out so I can help other people, and emptiness, how reality functions. But I don't know, maybe ACI is just teaching karma and emptiness.
Okay, just say that one too. Can you do that one in a sentence? Karma and emptiness, what does that mean?
Karma and emptiness means that there is a lack of something having qualities of its own, which allows for whatever is inside of me to come out in a way that I'll understand it.
Perfect. Gorgeous. Gorgeous, thank you. I think I can go home now, right? Yeah, no, what's her name? Sarah, good to meet you. So you've said it. I mean, we could encapsulate everything we're doing here according to the three principal paths and that sentence about the connection between karma and emptiness. So I'll just recap here. The recognition of suffering, the willingness to do something and give something up in order to stop it, the recognition that everybody else is suffering the same way I am, and therefore I'm willing to do something huge and give up something huge in order to take care of everybody. And the correct view of reality that understands that reality lacks the qualities that would stop it from ever transforming into another kind of reality. So it's the emptiness that makes the motivation to overcome suffering for ourselves and others possible. And so the way that Geshe Michael Roach in particular has taught the connection between karma and emptiness as the fact things lack inherent qualities, and therefore what we've done in the past, namely karma, action, plants seeds in our minds that then force us to perceive an empty blank screen reality in certain ways, as certain events, as certain people, as certain worlds, as certain bodies. And that precisely that emptiness of things having inherent characteristics is what gives us the possibility, the freedom, the potentiality to plant the seeds for a world where we don't see ourselves suffering, we don't see others suffering. And if any of you have studied extensively in other presentations of Tibetan Buddhism, you'll hear a lot about karma. You'll hear a lot about the 12 links of dependent origination. You'll hear a lot about past actions bringing about the way that we perceive the world now and the things that happen to us. You'll also hear a lot about emptiness and the fact that things don't possess characteristics of their own or an inherent nature. But it is not so frequent that you will hear them connected together in that way. Does that sound familiar to anybody? And so for me, having sort of started to embody these, inhabit these different worlds, having been a student of Geshe Michael for 15 years now, doing the Diamond Mountain courses, and then going into graduate school right after that, and being very aware that certainly in the field of Buddhist studies, nobody takes it for granted that karma and emptiness, the marriage of karma and emptiness, that is not the first principle of Buddhism in most places you hear about Buddhism. And so I was really curious, does Jinzo Kappa ever say that? There are certain phrases, because I started studying Tibetan, that I knew you could find in Tibetan, about things lacking any characteristics of their own, about things not having inherent natures, about the correlation between karma and its results. And I mean, you can read the ACI courses and you can see every single sentence that's translated from the Tibetan. But I don't think you'll ever see, and if somebody finds it, please show me. I don't think you'll ever see in direct translations from the Tibetan certain key elements of Geshe Michael's teaching, such as the emptiness of the flower, or the, let me say it this way. The flower that isn't there is the one that didn't come from your karma. I mean, how profound is that? But you won't find that sentence in Tibetan. And you won't find it, therefore, in the direct translations. Or, the emptiness of a thing is the lack of it not being a projection forced on you by your karma. Again, a profound definition of emptiness. But you won't see exactly those words in Tibetan. And so I was starting to get really curious. How many steps of transitive logic, do you know that, you're all familiar with that notion of A equals B, B equals C, C equals D, so A equals D. That's transitive logic. How many steps of transitive logic would one need to make within the writings of Tsongkhapa himself, much less the whole of the Indo-Tibetan tradition, in order to get that, to derive that? Because instinctively, I mean, I've trusted Geshe Michael for a long time. I've studied with him for a long time. I believe that he knows what he's talking about, from direct experience and from scripture. But it was kind of that challenge as a scholar and as a student and as a practitioner. Well, can I find this? So maybe this is a good moment to say this. I've been laughing at this to myself for a little while now. Most people, when they give a teaching or something, they can give all their qualifications. And as Hector so kindly introduced me, I feel embarrassed. But they can sort of say, oh, I studied this text and I received transmission on this text from such and such a lama, and I studied this for 20 years and all the rest of it. And I was thinking, well, actually, technically I'm completely unqualified either to have translated or to be teaching this material. And I'll tell you why. Because while I studied in India for over 9 months, which is nothing in the scope of studying Buddhism in monasteries, and I did attend numerous classes on the Umogompa Rabso, which is the illumination of the true thought of the middle way, one of Tsongkhapa's major works on the middle way. And I was in classes at Domaling Nunnery devoted specifically to that book, and actually learned my way around that book, shall we say, based on those classes. Actually, I'll take it out after the break. I have the book with me, or one volume with me. I was, first of all, still struggling with my spoken and oral Tibetan at that time. So it was often just a matter of figuring out what part of the book are we in and what page are we on and what's the content of what's going on, rather than actually feeling like I'm just sitting in a class learning content. But furthermore, it was pieces, it was excerpts, it was parts, it's a huge book, and I was only learning bits and pieces. So what I ended up needing to translate for my dissertation and spend, what was probably hundreds and hundreds of hours with over the course of the past 2 years, in the end, I was doing by myself. And as you know, from a traditional point of view, that's not so advisable, because there's so much in the lineage of transmission of what do these words mean, what does the content mean, how do you debate this on the debate ground with fellow practitioners. And yet there's something about the situation of a Western scholar with limited time for field work, with a mission as to what I want to learn, that in the end, that's what you have to do. You have to sit and text yourself and try to figure it out. And so in a sense, I do have confidence in the things that I discovered, and I definitely have confidence in the things that I translated and that the translation is accurate. But I also have this sort of joyful awareness of it's totally tenuous, and it's for all of us to continue to check out, does this make sense? And can we compare this against other translations and other teachings? And so I want to give you that great big caveat as we enter into this. Both the tremendous trust in my own teachers and Geshe Michael, but not only Geshe Michael. By now I have studied with numerous other masters, both English speaking and Tibetan speaking. But also, in the end, when one has struggled with a point by yourself, which is what we're also doing in meditation, what we're also doing in retreat, in the end, okay, it's this mind, and the reflections of this mind, and the holy beings talking to this mind, and the holy beings that this mind calls upon because it believes they're there. And the kind of struggle that takes place within that. Dare I say, all of us in the end, that's all we can trust. So the reason I'm smiling about this, the reason I'm not sort of embarrassed to say this, is because I think it's exactly where we all need to be. Is, yeah, we receive transmissions, and they're never complete, and we will never study every scripture there ever was, and we will never understand everything that every perfect teacher can tell us. At a certain point, you just jump in, and you just say, I have what I have, and the rest I have to figure out by myself. And yet, you use all the tools that you have. And so that's where the first part of the meditation comes in so important, because you're relying on prayer, you're relying on blessing to do that. And I actually think, even though we're so deeply settled now, it's time for a little break. So let's come back at 5 to 9, okay? And then I'll jump into more content. So please enjoy. Use the restroom as you wish. Try to stay cool.